story kicks off with Sheriff John rushing to a hostage situation in the middle of the night. When he arrives, he finds a woman held captive in a car by a dangerous criminal. Trying to stay calm, John negotiates with the criminal, assuring him he'll meet his demands as long as the woman is released. But just as they're talking, the woman unexpectedly fights back, forcing the criminal to shoot her in the stomach. Without hesitation, one of John's officers takes action, firing a shot that takes down the criminal. The woman, though wounded, survives and is quickly rushed to the hospital. Later that night, John and his wife are fast asleep at home when she suddenly wakes up, sensing something strange outside. She nudges John, urging him to check, but when he looks, there's no sign of anyone. In the end, he brushes it off as a bad dream and goes back to sleep. The next day, chaos strikes again. 3 members of a local biker gang burst into a bank, guns drawn, firing shots into the air. They demand money from the cashier and swiftly grab a bag of cash before making their exit, leaving panic in their wake. Meanwhile, an agent named Raiden receives a report about the bank robbery and quickly learns that the gang's leader is Kyle, a dangerous fugitive with a long history of violence. His team informs him that Kyle and his crew are heading to a nearby motel, so Raiden gears up for the capture. Shortly after, Raiden and his team rush to the motel, waiting in their vehicle for the gang to arrive. It isn't long before Kyle's group pulls up, but just as they're about to make their move, a woman suddenly yells loudly, informing that the police are already there. The shout ignites a chaotic shootout between Raiden's team and Kyle's 2 men. In the chaos, Kyle manages to slip away with the money bag. During the firefight, one of Kyle's men is killed, and the other is left wounded and pinned down. Raiden moves in demanding answers. The surviving man refuses to talk at first, throwing insults Raiden's way. But after some forceful questioning, the man finally cracks, revealing that Kyle is heading to his farm in a nearby town. With this new lead, Raiden and his team immediately head toward the farm. Meanwhile, Kyle, still on the run, encounters a setback. His motorcycle breaks down, slowing his escape. The scene shifts to Sheriff John, who arrives at his office ready for another day of work. Just as he settles in, his subordinate David requests permission to take his team out on a routine patrol. John nods in agreement, and David and his team head out, leaving John to handle things at the office. An hour later, the focus shifts to Raiden and his team, who have just arrived at Kyle's farm. The place is quiet, and the only person they find is Kyle's wife, Emily, with no sign of Kyle himself. Raiden quickly orders his men to secure Emily and heads toward the nearest sheriff's office to coordinate their next move. At the sheriff's office, Raiden meets Sheriff John, the man in charge of the area. Raiden explains his mission. He's after Kyle, the fugitive, and needs John's help. Raiden shares that he's already detained Kyle's wife and is confident Kyle will show up soon. Hearing this, John agrees to assist, but informs Raiden that his men are out on patrol. Without missing a beat, Raiden and John head to the farm, preparing to wait for Kyle to make his move. Back at the farm, tensions rise as one of Raiden's men, Hug, crosses a line, making an inappropriate advance toward Emily. Just as things escalate, John and Raiden arrive, their presence halting the situation. John is furious, confronting Hug for his actions. With a sharp tone, he reminds Hug that Emily is an innocent bystander who deserves respect, not this kind of treatment. Raiden, as Hug's superior, swiftly steps in, offering a quick apology to John for his subordinate's behavior. He then orders his team to search the entire farm, while John stays behind to guard Emily. Meanwhile, Kyle, still stranded on the side of a desolate road after his motorcycle breaks down, is approached by a kind couple on another bike. The man offers to help fix Kyle's motorcycle, but as soon as he inspects it, Kyle seizes the opportunity. Without warning, he steals the couple's bike and speeds off, leaving them behind in his dust. Not long after, John sits with Emily, the tension in the room thick as their conversation turns to her husband. John asks if she knows that Kyle is one of the most wanted criminals. Emily looks up, a hint of confusion in her eyes, and tells him that, as far as she knew, Kyle was just the leader of a biker gang. She then pauses, her voice softening as she thanks John for saving her from Hug earlier. John offers a reassuring smile, telling her that as long as he's around, she'll be safe, and no one will harm her. But his expression grows serious as he apologizes, explaining that she'll need to stay with them for now until Kyle surrenders. Just as the silence settles, John's phone rings. He steps outside to take the call, leaving Emily alone for a moment. When he returns, he notices the roar of a motorcycle in the distance. His eyes narrow, and without hesitation, he shouts for Raiden and the others to prepare. They've got company. Kyle is here, but as they brace for action, Kyle does the unexpected. He turns his bike around and speeds off, vanishing into the distance. Raiden looks around, baffled, and asks Emily where Kyle could have gone. Emily tells him with a tense sigh that Kyle will likely call reinforcements to deal with them, except for John, who had treated her with kindness earlier. Moments later, Raiden steps outside, scanning the surroundings for any sign of how Kyle knew they were inside. It doesn't take long to figure it out. Emily had been signaling by stopping the windmill, a clear sign that danger had entered the house. Raiden immediately orders John to contact his men and bring them to the farm. He's certain that Kyle is not alone and will soon bring a large group of reinforcements. John quickly calls his subordinate David, instructing him to head to the farm. As he hangs up, John turns to Raiden, asking for more details on Kyle's criminal activities and why he's considered such a dangerous fugitive. At that moment, Raiden explains that Kyle and his gang have left a bloody trail in the neighboring town, killing many, including several of Raiden's officers. This morning, Kyle also robbed a bank, adding to his already deadly reputation. Meanwhile, Kyle arrives at the hideout of the most powerful mafia boss in the city. Upon entry, he is confronted by the boss's men, who question his presence. Kyle insists he needs to speak with the boss, but the men dismiss him, mocking him instead. Tension rises and a fight quickly erupts between them. In the midst of the chaos, the mafia boss steps in, silencing the fight with a single command. He looks at Kyle, his gaze sharp and demanding an explanation. Kyle wastes no time, explaining that he needs help to fend off the police closing in on him. His wife is being held hostage at the farm, and the police are there waiting to arrest him. At that moment, Kyle offers all the stolen money as payment, promising the mafia boss that it will be his if he agrees to help. After a moment of consideration, the mafia boss agrees, dispatching some of his best men to aid Kyle in his escape. Back at the farm, John sits with Emily, who expresses her shock and disappointment upon learning that Kyle is a wanted fugitive. Despite his violent nature, Emily always believed there was good in him. She then asks to use the restroom, and John reluctantly grants permission, but insists she be escorted, fearing she might try to escape. When Emily returns, John leaves her with one of Raiden's men, Brandon, and steps outside to speak with Raiden. Alone with Brandon, Emily is met with a harsh remark. Brandon tells her that she's no different from Kyle and warns her not to pretend to be innocent. He believes she's not a good woman. The words sting and anger flares in Emily. In a swift motion, she strikes Brandon, but before she can react further, Hug, the same man who'd tried to make an inappropriate move earlier, grabs her by the throat, his grip tight and menacing. Hearing the commotion from inside, John bursts into the room, his eyes immediately fixing on Hug as he stands over Emily. Without hesitation, John demands that Hug let her go. But instead of backing down, Hug pulls a gun on John, warning him to stay out of it. In the chaos, Emily seizes the opportunity. She grabs a broken plate from the nearby table and with a swift motion, drives it into Hug's side. Hug crumples to the ground, dead in an instant. The brutal scene sends shockwaves through the room, and Raiden enters just as the tension peaks. He takes in the sight of Hug's lifeless body, stunned by the violent turn of events. Rage overtakes him, and in a swift motion, Raiden grabs Emily by the throat, choking her into unconsciousness. Despite being handcuffed, she had taken down one of his men with shocking ease. In the end, Raiden orders John to take her upstairs, away from the scene, while he deals with the aftermath of Hug's death. 5 minutes later, Emily slowly regains consciousness, her vision blurry. She finds herself handcuffed to a bed upstairs. A wave of realization hits her as she sees John standing nearby. She warns him quietly, expressing her distrust of Raiden's group, sensing their malicious intent. Emily then asks John to lean in, offering to share something important. As John approaches, she strikes, knocking him out cold with a well-placed blow. After knocking John out cold, Emily uses every ounce of her strength to break free from the bed frame, snapping her handcuffs in the process. With quick, calculated movements, she grabs John's weapon, a sharp regret flashing through her mind. She apologizes softly, explaining to herself more than anyone that she has no choice but to take control of the situation. With the gun now in her hand, she makes her way downstairs, every step a careful calculation. Moments later, Emily steps into the room, pistol raised, and holds Raiden at gunpoint. His face remains calm, but his eyes narrow as Brandon and another man step forward, ready to stop her. But with Raiden as her hostage, they hesitate, powerless to act. Emily has the upper hand. Just as she's about to pull the trigger and take Raiden out, something shifts behind her. A sharp movement catches her off guard. It's David, John's subordinate, who ambushes her from behind. With no choice but to release Raiden, Emily surrenders once again, her escape thwarted. Raiden quickly orders Brandon and another man to guard her, ensuring she stays under control. Meanwhile, John regains consciousness, a pounding headache the first sign of his return to reality. He rushes downstairs to find the scene unfolding before him. Raiden hands John his pistol, the one Emily had taken earlier. Raiden comments dryly that, if not for David, Emily might have slipped away. John nods, grateful for the timely intervention, then turns to David. He asks why David came alone. David explains that his men are still out on patrol, but they should be joining them shortly. The three men, John, Raiden, and David, head upstairs, their footsteps heavy as they prepare to confront Emily. As they enter the room, the sharp ring of Emily's phone cuts through the silence. She answers the call, her expression hardening as she listens to her husband Kyle on the other end. He tells her that he's on his way and that they should be ready. Raiden leans back, his tone casual as he waits for Kyle's arrival. A car soon pulls up outside and Raiden signals for the others to prepare, expecting it to be Kyle. But when the car stops, it's not Kyle. Instead, three of David's animal hunters step out, their eyes scanning the surroundings. Seeing this, John turns to David, questioning why civilians are involved and where his officers are. David explains that the hunters are skilled with weapons and will be helpful in the situation. His police colleagues couldn't join due to handling another case. Raiden interrupts, his focus unwavering. He reminds John that in situations like this, they need to stay sharp and focused. He then directs David's hunters to join Brandon and the rest of the team, the preparation intensifying as they all brace for the inevitable arrival of Kyle. 10 minutes later, John approaches Raiden, who's casually sipping coffee, his eyes scanning the room. John stands there for a moment before speaking up, his voice low but firm. He requests permission to confiscate everyone's phones, including David's. He explains it as a precaution, a way to ensure no one is betraying them. Raiden eyes him for a moment, weighing the request, before nodding without a word, unwilling to argue. John wastes no time, moving quickly to David's group. He demands that they all hand over their phones, his eyes sharp as he scans the room. One by one the phones are collected, and John begins to inspect them, his hands moving swiftly. When he reaches David's phone, his fingers freeze as he scrolls through the call log. His face tightens as he sees numerous calls from David to John's wife, the contents of some of the conversations unmistakably intimate. A storm of rage swells within John. His jaw clenches as he approaches David, his voice shaking with anger. He asks, his words cutting, how David could betray him like this, especially when he considered him a brother. David offers no apology, his response cold and calculated. He admits that John's wife is beautiful and often tempted. The words hit John like a punch, fueling the fire of his fury. Without warning, a physical fight erupts between them, punches thrown in a blur of anger and betrayal. Amid the chaos of the fight, a sudden shift occurs. Brandon and one of his men quietly slip away, dragging Emily with them. It becomes clear that they intend to ransom her to Kyle. Raiden reacts instantly, his focus snapping back to the situation. He orders John and David to stop their brawl and pursue Brandon before it's too late. Brandon and his accomplice nearly make their escape with Emily in a getaway car, but Raiden opens fire, forcing a fierce shootout. The air is thick with gunfire as both sides exchange rapid, brutal shots. When the dust settles, Raiden's team emerges victorious. Emily is safely retrieved, but the cost is high. One of David's hunter allies is dead, and another lies gravely wounded. David moves toward his injured comrade, ready to take him to the hospital. But Raiden stops him. Time is of the essence, and Raiden knows Kyle's forces will be arriving soon. John, unable to watch the suffering of the injured hunter, steps forward and approaches Raiden, his voice low as he pleads for the man to be taken to the hospital. After a tense pause, Raiden reluctantly agrees, but only on the condition that David doesn't accompany him. One of the hunter's companions steps in to take the injured man away, leaving the rest of the group to prepare for what comes next. Once the situation settles, David turns to John, his voice full of regret. He thanks John for advocating on his behalf with Raiden and offers a heartfelt apology for his affair with John's wife. Unexpectedly, John doesn't react with anger, instead offering a calm response. He's come to terms with the betrayal, but sets a condition. When all of this is over, David must take John's wife and leave town, never to return. If they do, John warns, there will be consequences. Moments later, the sound of approaching vehicles breaks the tense silence. Kyle and his forces are arriving. Inside the house, only Raiden, John, and David remain. Raiden issues orders, preparing for the battle that's about to unfold. But David, unwilling to face certain death, makes a quick decision. Without a word, he slips out through the back, abandoning the fight. Now, only Raiden and John are left to face the oncoming storm. The weight of the situation settles in as the two prepare for the inevitable clash. Before the battle begins, the sound of Kyle's voice booms from outside, demanding Raiden surrender. Raiden stands his ground, refusing to back down, his determination clear. Inside, Emily turns to John, her concern evident. She urges him to leave, fearing for his life at the hands of her husband. But John doesn't waver, resolute in his decision to stay and fight. The clash is imminent. As the battle rages on, two of Kyle's men manage to breach the house. Without hesitation, John and Raiden neutralize them swiftly, their teamwork seamless. Raiden then orders John to take care of the remaining attackers while he leads Kyle into the barn. Left behind, John struggles to fend off the last of Kyle's men, the odds stacked against him. Emily, watching from her restraints, feels a pang of sympathy for John. Seeing his struggle, she pleads silently, hoping for a chance to help. She begs to be freed, promising that she can assist him. Once released, Emily springs into action, and together they manage to take down the last two of Kyle's men with a burst of coordinated effort. Meanwhile, Raiden leads Kyle into the barn, where a tense shootout ensues. The fight is intense, but eventually, Kyle overpowers Raiden, killing him in the heat of the exchange. Afterward, Kyle makes his way back to the house, checking on Emily. As he nears the door, he calls out, asking if there are any enemies left inside. Emily, standing calm and composed, tells him there are none, though John lies wounded nearby. She quietly urges John to stay hidden, planning to use this moment to try and persuade Kyle to leave. Soon, Emily confronts Kyle, her anger boiling over as the truth finally sinks in. She never imagined the man she loved was a wanted fugitive, endangering her life with his lies. Her voice trembles with betrayal, but Kyle, still in battle mode, becomes enraged, and the tension between them ignites into a heated argument. Just then, John enters, gun drawn, his focus solely on Kyle. The standoff is tense, and Kyle laughs, mocking John, stepping forward with defiance. The two prepare to shoot, the weight of the moment hanging heavy in the air. But before either can fire, Emily acts unexpectedly. She pulls the trigger first, shooting Kyle before he can make another move. As Kyle falls to the ground, his life slipping away, Emily rushes to him, kneeling beside him as he takes his last breaths. Her heart is heavy with sorrow, but she explains silently through her actions. She apologizes, though the regret is mixed with relief. She is disappointed by the man he was, the lies he fed her, and the abuse she endured. Now she has chosen to protect John, and in the midst of the violence, she's come to realize her feelings for him run deeper than she ever expected. With Kyle gone, John approaches Emily, the air thick with what's left unsaid. He offers a future, a chance to be together once everything with his wife is settled. The bond between them is undeniable, and with that, the story comes to an end. So the moral of the story is, never underestimate a quiet sheriff, because while you're out causing chaos, he's already a step ahead, handling business, and possibly dodging a motorcycle disaster. Also, if you're trying to escape, maybe don't leave a trail of betrayal and chaos for your wife to clean up.